morning. My name is Camille Mortimer. I'm from Project Foundry, just down the road 2 blocks, and one of the organizers here at 1 Million Cups. And we're really glad that you're here. We've got some announcements first, then we're going to do some introductions, and then I'll be introducing you to Andrea Davis, and we'll get started on BidRide. So it's nice that you're here to hear what she's up to. Announcements. We have a group of people who have volunteered to be organizers, additional organizers for 1 Million Cups, and we have an organizer meeting following today, directly following the event. We'll start at just moments after 10 o'clock in the conference room back by the coffee area, for those of you who are involved in that. Or if there's anybody else who wants to come who hasn't volunteered yet, you're welcome to be there with us. Secondly, Brian has some announcements for us.
Sure.
Brian Mayer.
Hello all, good to see a great crowd here today, especially for one of our particular announcements. So I've got a question, well, 2 or both questions really. So one of the things that I've been toying with as an organizer is, kind of figuring out different communications channels to let you guys know kind of what's up, when, and all that kind of stuff. One of the things that I've toyed with is having a public Google Calendar that you could subscribe to. So it would just automatically show up in the calendar. I'm sure you guys have all had that in various places or not. But the downside of that is it could kind of clog up your calendar. So I'm curious as to how many people would actually subscribe to a calendar like that?
How many events would be on it?
The weekly event.
Just the weekly.
Yeah, just our thing every week, you would know kind of who was on there and stuff. So we got kind of handful. Okay, probably enough to justify doing it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it! Yeah, nobody's going to force you to subscribe. The other thing is we're toying with a fun little idea. So one of the presenters that we're talking with for sometime in the next few weeks, sometime mid to late June, is Hawthorne Coffee. I don't know if you guys have ever been down to that shop. He's down on Howell. And considering doing a Million Cups field trip. So instead of meeting here that morning, we would meet down at that shop and kind of take over the whole coffee shop that morning. It's a decent sized space. It's kind of a old Mayberry kind of feel to it in there. So here's the other question, and some of you may be put on the spot. Okay, so if you would say, I work downtown, and that would be a huge inconvenience for me if it was someplace that wasn't downtown and nearby, and it was someplace else, because this is down by the airport, is where this is. So having a place like that, how many of you, that would prevent you from coming?
Is he going to do a presentation about business?
Yeah.
So it's going to be an entrepreneurial presentation at his location.
Yep, same deal as we do here, except it would just be at another location. Anybody it would prevent you, the location would prevent you from coming. Okay, so I guess it's just a matter of communication then, as far as knowing when and all that kind of stuff. So that's all I have.
Did he respond back with a date yet?
Yeah, we're confirming it's going to be probably either the 15th or the 22nd.
Okay.
So 15th most likely, 22nd is backup, but we're just waiting on the confirmation for that. You'll all know. Oh, and if you haven't yet gone on to the 1millioncups.com/Milwaukee and click follow, go do that. Because that's the way that we send out information currently about who's presenting each week. It's to kind of keep you in the loop on everything. If you're not on there, you're not in the know. So that's the place to go. All right, Camille, back to you.
Yeah, thanks. Your coffee today is provided by Jake Price from One Page Bookkeeping and his sons, who are Milwaukee Realty and Bearkey Realty. And Jake is not with us today, but he is such a faithful soul. He came in, he got the coffee ready, he put it all out. He's taking his wife to the airport, and he's going to come back and clean up. That is the organizer of all. I'm just like, wow. Thank you. So thanks for the coffee, Jake. And then introductions. So let's find out who's here. All right, and we're going to start over here and with a newbie to our group this morning. Welcome to everyone. So I met Andrea 2 weeks ago, maybe, here, and somebody introduced me to her, and she said, well, my family's been in the cab business for a long time, and I do a company like Uber. And I said, all right, well, let's talk about that because that doesn't seem to be a good match at all, does it? You know, you own a cab company and then there's the business like Uber. She did a grand job of explaining that to me, and she is the founder and executive director, president of BidRide. And she can tell you more about herself and what they're up to, but it's an interesting story disrupting the marketplace. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Like she said, my name is Andrea Davis. I'm co-founder and president of BidRide, a new ride-sharing app that we have just released at the end of April in the Milwaukee area. So my family has been in the taxi cab industry, in the taxi cab business for 60 years. And when the ride-sharing companies like Uber came out, it really hurt the taxi industry. And you know, the initial reaction of the taxi cab industry was to fight companies like Uber. But we took a look at it and we thought, you know, the taxi cab industry, they haven't really changed in the last 40 years. And companies like Uber, that's where the world is going. That's what people want. So we looked at Uber, namely because they're the biggest, most popular ride-sharing company, and we pulled out the challenges that we would have to overcome in order to keep up with companies like Uber. So the first challenge that we found is Uber is experiencing a long honeymoon. And what I mean by that is, you know, they have an app that is easy to use. You know, you pull out your phone, you click on the app, you can order a ride right from your phone. You know how much you're going to pay for that ride before you ever get in the car. It tells you the name of the driver. It tells you the kind of car that your driver is driving, and it lets you know when your driver is there to come pick you up. Customers love Uber. They rave about it. They're very popular. Uber has made consumers impatient. In 2013, people were willing to wait about 8 to 10 minutes for their car to come pick them up. By 2014, that had dropped down to 4 to 5 minutes. Traditional taxis are perceived as slow, and for good reason. As you can see, this blue bar is Uber. They pick up their riders. The majority of their rides are picked up within less than 10 minutes, in less than 10 minutes. As you can see, the orange and the teal are taxis. The orange is taxis that people called for, and the teal are people that have hailed taxis off the street. As you can see, most of the taxi cab rides are not picked up within under 10 minutes. Traditional taxis are perceived as more expensive, which is not necessarily true. This gray line is Uber Black. They're like town cars. The teal line is regular Uber, and the yellow line are taxi cabs. And as you can see, between regular Uber and taxi cabs, there's really only a couple of dollars difference. However, the public perceives taxis as more expensive, and that's really all that matters. So then, after we looked at the challenges, we looked at what are the opportunities. You know, we looked at the ride-sharing companies. What can we maybe do better than what the current ride-sharing companies are doing? Safety is a really big one. I don't know if you guys have heard, but there have been more and more stories in the news about women being attacked by Uber drivers. Not only women, you know, some men have been attacked too, but a lot of women have been attacked, and the way that Uber has handled those problems is not very well. They're also getting bad press for the way they handle those situations. Slowly, more and more countries are banning Uber because of all the stuff that's going on, the attacks and how they handle the situation. Customers are not a fan of the surge pricing. So I don't know if any of you have taken an Uber or if you have seen this, but at peak times, Uber will surge its prices. So that's usually at bar close or at the end of big events such as like Summerfest. We have had people tell us that, you know, they take a ride at the beginning of the night, go out to the bar, it's $18 for Uber. When they come back at bar close, that same ride is now $75 or $80. People are not a fan of that. The Uber drivers Uber's having problems with its drivers. So when Uber comes into a city, they make their drivers all these promises. You know, they say, work part-time for us, you'll make $100,000 a year, we have low commission, we'll give you all this stuff. And then the drivers come in and they learn that that's not true. Uber will come in, and in order to get riders, they lower their ride fares, you know, the fares of the prices, and then they raise the commission commission fee that they charge the drivers. So the drivers are making less and less money, and they're not happy about that. So unlike Uber, or companies like Uber, they have to recruit both drivers and riders for people every time they come into a city. Well, BidRide uses taxi cabs, and every major city already has taxi cabs. There's already taxi cab companies in every major city, so we already have the drivers. We just need them to get to sign up for the app. So that's an advantage that we have over Uber. The other thing is because we use taxi cabs, most taxi cab drivers drive full time, and they drive anywhere from 40 to 80 hours a week. On average, the average Uber driver only drives 10 hours a week, so they need more drivers to sign up to fill their demand. So we kind of broke down the problems and then the solutions that BidRide has come up with. So on the customer side, Uber customers, surge pricing, like I said, customers are not a fan of surge pricing. So what BidRide has done, when you use BidRide, the price of the ride is determined between the rider and the driver. BidRide does not tell you how much that ride is going to be. The rider and the driver just determine themselves how much they're going to pay for that ride. Sorry, it's a little hard to see on my screen. Confusion over drivers using their personal vehicles. We only use taxi cabs, and you will be picked up in a taxi cab, so you know that you're getting in the right car. For Uber, because people use their personal cars, it's hard to sometimes tell that you're getting in the right car. Some people just jump into a car because it looks like the car that their driver is driving, and it's not. That has happened. And then safety and trust. We only use licensed, vetted taxi cab drivers. So they have had background checks with the city and the state. They're licensed. They're in an easily identifiable vehicle, so that you feel more safe. On the driver's side, Uber drivers, the unrealistic promises of earnings. Like I said, Uber is the one that tells them how much money that they can make. At BidRide, since the rider and the driver negotiate the price, the drivers can make as much money as they want. If they think that a ride is too low, they do not have to accept that ride. So they can make as much money as they want. Oh, the contentious relationship between Uber drivers, Uber and their drivers. Since my family has been in the taxi cab industry for 60 years, we already have a strong relationship with taxi cab drivers. We've listened to them, we know their concerns, we know what's important to them, and we already get along with them very well. So we know how to work with our drivers rather than work against our drivers. And insurance liability issues, like I said, we only use licensed vetted taxi cab drivers in their taxi cabs, so they already have to have the appropriate amount of insurance in order for you to get in their car, in order for them to drive. So, our target audience right now are millennials. We looked at the statistics, and more millennials are choosing to live in the city rather than in the suburbs. They prefer public transportation to owning their own cars. Owning your own car is expensive, especially in the city. You have to pay for parking and gas. So more and more millennials are going towards ride sharing or public transportation. So BidRide, we use a concept that people are already familiar with, and it shows that it works. One, technology. We have finally brought technology into the taxi cab industry. Like I said, before this, the taxi cab industry hasn't changed in 40 years, and back then technology wasn't really a big thing, but today it is. It's all about convenience, technology. So now we've created an app where you just use your smartphone to get a ride. Our bid model is kind of modeled after like eBay and Priceline. Those two companies are hugely successful, so we already know that it works. We do have proof that this concept is successful. So there is an app in China. It's called Didi Dash. What happens is because there's so many people in China, it's really hard to get like a taxi cab or rides. So Didi Dash came out, and it's an app where you order a taxi cab right from your phone, and then you can choose to tip as much as you want, to give a bigger tip so that you get better service, so that you get picked up a lot faster. It's working really well, and actually, I don't know if you saw, but Apple just invested $1 million into this company. So, how does BidRide work? On the rider side, you download the BidRide app, you put in your information, you enter in a credit card, and when you want to ride, you put in your pickup location, your destination location. The app will give you a suggested price, but you pick the price that you want to pay. You can pay whatever price you want, then you send it out. The drivers will see that. They can either accept, give a counter offer, or deny your bid. If a driver accepts, that's it, you're done, and the driver will come pick you up, you take your ride. If the driver gives a counter offer, it comes back to you, and it'll go back and forth between the rider and the driver until a price is agreed upon. How it works on the driver's side, so the drivers who are signed up for BidRide, they log into the app, they can see a map within a 15-mile radius of where they are. And they can see what riders are looking for rides. And they also get a text notification anytime a rider puts in a bid. They'll get a text message that says, hey, a rider puts in a bid, do you want to take it? The driver looks at it, like I said, they can either accept the ride, they can counteroffer, or deny the ride. If they deny it, it'll go back out to all the other drivers, and some other driver can pick it up. If it's in the counter offer stage, if the driver gives a counter offer, it will also go out to other drivers, so other drivers can put in a counter offer as well. If the rider accepts, or if the driver accepts, obviously then it disappears so that no other drivers take them. On the company side, so how does the company make money if we don't set the prices? So we charge the rider a flat rate booking fee for each ride that they take, and we take a small percentage of commission from the driver for each ride, but only for the ride. If the driver gets a tip, we do not take a commission from their tip. As soon as either the rider or the driver hits the accepted button, that transaction is considered contracted, and it means the rider's card will be charged, and then we pay the driver within 48 hours of that ride. And your general operating rule. I talked about the 15-mile radius of the driver to see for the riders. How the driver knows the available rides. So we have, on the driver's side, there are green dots, yellow dots, and red dots. Green dots are rides that are available, so the driver can click on that and see the information. Yellow rides are rides that are currently in the counter bid stage. The driver can also click on that and see and offer their own counter offer or accept the ride. The red rides are rides that are currently in progress, so they've already been contracted, there's a driver already taking the ride with them. If the driver does not accept, decline, or counter the ride within 30 seconds, then the ride goes back out for everybody else to see, for all the other drivers to see, so that they can pick up and take the ride. And that is all.
This is really fun and probably works well, like in Milwaukee. A place like New York, they have a commission that sets what a taxi can charge, and you're supposed to have a meter running and all that kind of stuff. And the good news, again, is they're regulated, so presumably the driver you get is probably safe. Get that. But what about the other regulations that go along with operating a taxi that could get in the way of what you're trying to do?
Of course. So what happens is, when you drive a taxi cab, here's how it works. The city does set, that's why they have meters, the city does set your rates, so they have no control over it. You get in a taxi cab, you say this is where I'm going, and at the end of the ride, the taxi cab driver says this is how much the meter says. However, if you contract with the driver, if you agree on a price with the driver before you ever take that ride, you do not have to follow the regulations. So you can pick whatever price you want. And that has been going on in the taxi cab industry for years. Actually, people will try to hail a taxi from the airport and say, hey, I want to go home, this is how far away I live. About how much will that be? The taxi cab driver is kind of aware, about how much it costs, and say, it'll be about $25. The rider says, I have 20, will you take me? The driver says, yep, I'll take it, get in the cab. So if the rider and the driver agree on a price before that rider takes the ride, they do not have to go by the city regulations. They don't have to do the meter rate.
And is that pretty universal, as
Yes.
opposed to just here? Okay.
There's a large startup called Get Taxi, which is basically Uber for taxis. It's the way of the taxi companies to stand up against Uber. It's exactly what Uber is, except it's rail cabs. How will your company, stand up against companies like Get Taxi, which are getting huge amounts of funding, very popular in a lot of big cities around the world, and they're probably going to roll out very similar to Uber.
Sure. Sure. So if they're exactly like Uber, but just with taxis, like I said, our main appeal is that we have the rider and the driver negotiate the price between themselves. We have nothing to do with the price. Whereas, apps like Uber and Get Taxi, they decide the price for you. So our big standout with that is because if they use taxis, I'm assuming, they get taxi apps, they also use taxis. So they have the safety aspect as well, just like we do, but we let the rider and the driver negotiate the price, so you can pay a lot less for a ride than you normally would, or more if you're looking to get faster service, whatever you want.
So just a follow-up question, if I may, and I'm sorry for interrupting anybody else. Aren't you worried that the negotiations will cause a downward spiral, which will cause drivers to be disinterested?
Actually, no. What happens is our drivers actually like it because they use it to supplement their normal taxi income. So our drivers actually will tend to use it when the regular taxi, like the regular taxi is slow, So there's peak times for the taxi cab industry. But when it's slow, then they can log on to the app and they'll see all the other rides from BidRide. So this isn't to replace their taxi income, it's to supplement their taxi income. So they can use it as much or as little as they want to. Yeah.
So I'm a driver, let's say, and I've got these bids coming in, but I'm driving. I mean, how do I respond to these bids while I'm driving another passenger?
That's probably not very safe. So we would hope that the driver, after the driver drops off their current passenger, that they would pull over, and
But I'd like to go and get, another ride lined up before I'm finished with this ride, and now, so I may have to pull over with my passenger in there in order to go and try to get another ride lined up.
Well, I don't think it'd be very good if they pulled over with their passenger in the car. They'll have to wait till they drop off the passenger and then they can look at the app. Yes.
Can you explain, do taxi drivers actually own their cars? Do they lease them from you? How does that relationship work for them to supplement their income?
Sure. It's actually, they rent the taxi. So some taxi cab drivers own their own taxis. You can own your own taxi cab. Otherwise, we have taxis that you can rent. So they rent it from us on a weekly basis. And all they do is pay us rent every week. And as long as we get the rent, the rest of the money that they make, when I say we, not BidRide, I'm talking about my family's taxi cab company. The rest of the money that they make is theirs. So, yeah, so some of them own their own, so they can do whatever they want, but like I said, however they want to make money is up to them. Yes.
So, okay, 2 questions. Is there minimum to bid? And then second is, how do you make money? What's your revenue model?
Sure. No, there is no minimum. A rider can put in whatever bid they want. And how we make money is we charge the rider a flat rate booking fee for each ride that they take. And the driver we charge a small commission fee from the driver for each ride that they take.
So what is the flat booking fee?
$1.
Okay.
Yep.
Andrea, you mentioned the increasing impatience of Uber passengers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an idea for the time from bid to contract with BidRide and how that compares to the transaction time for Uber?
Oh, sure. Let's see, we're still working on getting all that data, but it honestly really depends on how busy or slow it is with the taxi cab drivers. If it's a really slow day for the taxi cab drivers, they usually just accept the ride right away. As soon as the ride comes out, they'll just hit accept because they want something to do, they want to make a quick buck, If it's kind of a peak time, then the negotiating stage, goes. But I think most of our rides, they only it's not like 5 minutes long or something. It's probably about, 1 to 2 minutes?
About that.
About 1 to 2 minutes.
And it depends on the negotiations as well. We found that in our analytics, some of the customers are going back and forth quite a bit in the negotiation process. So they're actually, they're liking the process a lot better. So they want to try and get that best possible price. And the drivers, if they are also in a down period of time as well, they tend to go back and forth a little bit more. So it all depends on the customer, the time frame in which they need to get from point A to point B, and the driver's time as well. So some people are in an immediate hurry and they
Right.
want to just accept the first offer that's
Would
out
you
there.
consider like an eBay model where you set an initial bid and a max bid where it's automated back and forth?
Or buy now, or buy now.
Right, yeah, right.
When,
Yeah, you
when someone puts in their address, their location, and where they're going, their destination, the app automatically generates, it populates a suggested fare. And that's the model, that's the price point that they use as a starting point. They can go, now the rider can bid lower than that, or they can bid higher. Not too many people want to bid higher than the suggested fare, but they can go lower. The driver then has an opportunity to counteroffer. So there is definitely a suggested fare that comes up.
What do you think your biggest challenge is going to be?
Well, like I said, we're competing with Uber, which is already super popular. We're probably getting into other cities. Like I said, you know, BidRide for us right now, we already have the taxi cab, we own a taxi cab company here. My family owns it here in Milwaukee, so we have that relationship with the drivers and the taxi cab company. So probably bringing it to other cities and showing it to the other taxi cab companies and saying, look, this is something that your drivers can use to supplement the income. You know, probably bringing it to the other cities and expanding might be a challenge, as long as we just have to make sure we present it right.
Is that franking to other cities, or would it be something that you would own and try to negotiate with the taxi cab companies in other cities?
I'm thinking, you know, we're in talks with our lawyer right now about the best way to go about that. So we're still, you know, really, we're just trying to get Milwaukee started, and then, you know, we're talking with our lawyer about how best to expand to other cities. So we're not quite sure how that's all going to work out yet. Yes.
Are you in the payment stream, or does that set it separately like you would with Uber? Uber, you know, you get out of the car and you're done. So you negotiate the price and you're going. In your setup, are you in the payment stream for the ride?
Oh, yeah, so when you sign up for BidRide, you have to give your credit card number, and it goes, yeah, you pay right through the app.
Okay, so you are part of the payment stream with the taxi driver as well as pieces you're taking off, just like Uber.
Yes.
When did you launch the service, and how many drivers and users do you have?
Sure. So we launched the week of Young Professionals Week, which I believe was like April 23rd, April 26th. That's when our app became public. Right now, we have around 100 drivers and a little over 100 riders.
And that's growing each day since we have begun advertising and some of the strategic partnerships that we've set up. So we have steadily seen our user accounts increase every day. So
This sounds very advanced and sophisticated, much more than I thought. It's very impressive. You mentioned your family's business. What is that taxi company?
The taxi?
Yeah.
Oh, American United Taxi Company?
Okay. Is that on First and?
Yeah, right on like 2nd and Pierce right there, or yeah, that whole block kind of right there.